In the spring of 1944, Europe was still engulfed in war. For nearly 5 years, Nazi Germany had conquered much of the continent. French cities lived under occupation, swastika flags waved from public buildings, and millions of people faced rationing, fear, and repression. Meanwhile, in England, something enormous was being prepared in silence. At military bases spread across the southern part of the country, hundreds of thousands of soldiers trained every day. Tanks were loaded onto ships, aircraft were constantly inspected, and maps of the French coastline were studied in every detail. Only a few men knew exactly when and where the attack would take place. The operation was given the name Overlord. The Supreme Commander, General Dwight D. Eisenhower, stood before the largest invasion force ever assembled in history. His objective was to cross the English Channel and break through the German defenses in Normandy, opening the path for the liberation of France. On the German side, Field Marshal Erwin Rommel believed an invasion was inevitable. He ordered the beaches to be reinforced with metal obstacles, landmines, barbed wire, and concrete bunkers. The coastline became known as part of the Atlantic Wall. But the Allies prepared a massive deception operation. Fake inflatable tanks, false radio transmissions, and simulated troop movements convinced the Germans that the main attack would occur at Calais, not Normandy. Hitler kept his reserve forces far from the real invasion site. On the night of June 5 to June 6, 1944, the weather was unstable. Strong winds and heavy clouds worried the commanders. Even so, Eisenhower made the most difficult decision of his life. The invasion would go ahead. Shortly after midnight, thousands of aircraft began crossing the English Channel. Inside them, American, British, and Canadian paratroopers prepared in silence. When the green lights turned on, they jumped into the darkness. Some landed exactly where they were supposed to. Others were scattered miles away. Many died before even reaching the ground. But their mission began to take effect. Bridges were captured, roads were blocked, and German communications fell into confusion. Meanwhile, at sea, a massive fleet was advancing. It was impossible to see the end of the ships on the horizon. Warships bombarded the German defenses, trying to clear a path for the soldiers. As dawn arrived, the landing craft approached the beaches. The soldiers gripped their rifles with trembling hands. Some prayed, others stared into the distance. When the ramps dropped, many were hit immediately. At Omaha Beach, the scene was especially brutal. The German defenses were almost intact. Machine guns fired non-stop from the cliffs. Bodies fell into the water, turning the sea red. Soldiers threw themselves behind obstacles, trying to take cover as comrades were killed beside them. Officers attempted to reorganize troops amid the chaos. For hours, it seemed the invasion might fail right there. But small groups began climbing the slopes, attacking the bunkers from behind. Little by little, the German defenses were neutralized. On the other beaches, the Allies advanced with less resistance, but still faced intense fighting. Tanks reached the shore. Engineers cleared paths through mines and barriers. Throughout the day, more and more soldiers landed. When night fell, the Allied flag was flying at several points along the French coast. More than 150,000 men had reached Normandy. The cost was terrible. Thousands were dead, wounded, or missing. Yet the invasion had achieved the impossible, establishing a solid foothold in Nazi-occupied territory. In the following days, the Germans launched fierce counterattacks. Constant bombardments, tank assaults, and sniper fire made every advance extremely dangerous. The Normandy landscape, with its fields, hedgerows, and villages, slowed troop movements. Every meter gained was paid in blood. The fighting turned into a war of attrition. For weeks, the Allies advanced slowly. Cities like Caen were almost completely destroyed. French civilians hid in basements as bombs fell. Only at the end of July did the Allies launch a massive offensive called Operation Cobra. After intense bombardments, the German lines finally broke. From that point on, the advance was rapid. The German army began retreating in disarray. Near the town of Falaise, thousands of Nazi soldiers were surrounded and captured or killed. Victory in Normandy was virtually secured. In August 1944, the Allies entered Paris. Crowds filled the streets, celebrating, hugging the soldiers, and crying with joy after years of occupation. But while liberation spread, horror continued in other parts of Europe. At the same time, Nazi extermination camps were operating at full capacity. Trains packed with Jews, Roma, and political prisoners arrived daily at places like Auschwitz. Millions had already been murdered. Even after D-Day, the Nazis accelerated deportations, especially from Hungary. Hundreds of thousands of people were sent to their deaths in just a few weeks. Only with the advance of the Allies and the Soviet Red Army were these camps reached and the survivors freed. When soldiers entered these places, they found unimaginable scenes. Bodies piled up, skeletal prisoners, evidence of mass murder. The world finally understood the true scale of the Holocaust. D-Day, therefore, was not just a great battle. It was the beginning of Europe's liberation and the start of the end of the greatest genocide in modern history. After months of advance, Germany surrendered in May 1945. The war in Europe was over. The sacrifice of the men who crossed the sea under enemy fire changed the course of history. Today, the beaches of Normandy remain silent, but every grain of sand carries the memory of those who fought there. D-Day is remembered as the moment when hope was reborn amid the chaos of war.